During my speech, I will be referring to Ben as BHB, because frankly, I'm not sure I've ever called him Ben in my life, and I think he would want it this way. The first time I met BHB, we were probably 13 or 14 years old, at railroad days, and actually, I didn't like him. The reason I didn't like him was because of these. I remember seeing him from a distance, wearing these American flag shoes and collared shirt, and thinking, who the heck is this guy? This would become an inside joke with us throughout the rest of our friendship. Years later, when we were in high school, I remember BHB being one of the first people I'd ever seen with the greatest piece of technological innovation at the time, the Motorola Razr. I remember seeing him using this in the cafeteria thinking, well, this guy seems cool. Maybe I should give him another chance. So I did. Around this time, I'd got my driver's license, and BHB and I started hanging out after school. We bonded over the love of emo music and golfing. In fact, one of the first things we ever did together was go golfing. On several occasions, we would go together to bunker links for a quick 9 holes while having mosh pits in my car to bands like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and Blink-182, all the way there. Our mutual love for friendly competition like playing golf and sharing music is something that never went away throughout the years. It was around this time when BHB and I became very close friends, and as you can see, we were really cool guys. So cool, we didn't even mind wearing matching outfits, as long as they looked good. Although I went to college a year before BHB, he took the 6-hour-long drive and came to visit me within the first few weeks of my freshman year at Southern Illinois. BHB joined Logan, Ben, and myself to go to a purple party, which was extremely appropriate for him as he loved the color purple. BHB was a friend you could always trust to visit you, and his presence was something myself and others looked forward to. His positive energy and love for a good time was contagious. This would not be the last time BHB visited me in college. In fact, he lived with me for an entire month during summer break while he attended Co. That summer was mostly a blur, but I have vivid memories of us longboarding way too fast down hills, competing and nearly getting in fights because of Nintendo 64 games like Mario Kart and NBA Jam, and eating late-night Winston bagels. My favorite memory of this summer was one afternoon. We were cleaning the apartment while blasting and singing I'm Yours by Jason Mraz. We listened to this song on repeat for at least an hour and a half. Like me, BHB had no problem listening to the same song for hours at a time, so this was a great day. Eventually, we heard a knock at the door, and my disheveled yet polite neighbor asked us, "Can you guys please turn down the Jason Mraz?" Eventually, summer ended, and BHB had to go back to school, but that month remained one of my favorite memories from college. Flash forward a few years, and with the help of Austin, I successfully convinced BHB to move to the Chicago area with me so we could live closer together. While I lived in the city, BHB and Austin lived in the suburbs. However, I soon became their unofficial roommate. I would drive up every Wednesday night after work and spend the night with Austin and BHB. It was like having a slumber party, but with the freedom of being adults. We would spend most of our nights poking fun at each other and playing video games. It was awesome. On Thursdays, BHB and I had a tradition of getting a good lunch, maybe a haircut, but eventually making the drive to Woodfield Mall, all while bumping our favorite tunes all the way there and back. Although this was such a small part of life back then, I will hold these memories close forever. In 2014, BHB and I moved in together with 2 friends, and to this day, this is still one of the best years of my life. We were in our mid-20s, living in Wrigleyville, and doing what kids in their mid-20s in Chicago do: work hard and play hard. I had recently switched jobs and was able to help BHB get hired at my company. We worked on the 30th floor of one of Chicago's most well-known skyscrapers, the Hancock Building. I'm not sure if anybody here has had the privilege of living and working with your best friend, but let me tell you, it was awesome. We experienced living in a big city together. From waking up when it's negative 10 degrees out and walking a half mile to get to the train, to burning off literal steam by sweating it out in intense dance battles at John Barleycorn, as you can see. And yes, dance battles. BHB and I would get into the middle of dance circles and battle our way to victory back then. This is not a joke. We had sweet moves. Moves that stayed with us years later, as you can see. At this time, we collaborated with everything we did, including making several Spotify playlists from different genres, from hip-hop to strong female ballads to our most prized possession called Whoa, which is over 54 hours long and contains every song we ever listened to as angsty teens. This is something BHB and I would show off like it was a badge of honor. From 2014 to 2016, we had a blast going to concerts, music festivals, sports bars, bar crawls, and even sushi dates, all while wearing matching clothes, playing Mario, and golfing. We loved like brothers, and we fought like brothers. I look back now, and no matter how bad we would argue about pointless and stupid things, we never stayed mad at each other. Even when I would lose my patience at BHB, when he would spend 5 minutes at a time looking at the nutritional facts of each box of food at the grocery store, just to make sure he got the most bang for his buck, I couldn't stay mad at him. BHB was not someone you could ever stay mad at, regardless of who was at fault. That was his superpower. Eventually, BHB's time in Chicago had come to an end. He had burned out of the fast pace of life in the big city and had a new calling to be with his other best friend, Nick Stein. Stein and I would often share a friendly rivalry over the years of a game I like to call Who's BHB's Real Best Friend? But I was excited to see my friend move out of Illinois and try something new. It was something I always wanted to do, and I was proud he did it before me. Within a few months of BHB moving to Phoenix, my life changed drastically. In November of 2016, I was diagnosed with kidney failure out of the blue and put on dialysis while I waited for a donor. This news hit BHB and the rest of my friends and family hard, everyone looking for a way to help. While my family members were being tested to become a potential donor, BHB came up with his own unique way to help me out, which entailed him live streaming himself for 24 hours on Twitch, asking viewers to donate for my cause. As if talking and being on camera for an entire day wasn't enough, for extra tips, he also ate disgusting flavors of jelly beans, like barf and rotten egg. Trying his best to keep me off his radar, I noticed he was online at one point and jumped on to see what was happening firsthand. It took me a few minutes to comprehend what was going on, but when I did, I burst into tears. This event struck my soul. BHB had not yet found a job for himself, yet he raised over $2,000 and gave it to me with no questions asked. I will never forget this, and to me, this was an eternal debt I owed to him. I think this alone speaks volumes to who BHB was at the core of his being. He was someone who always put others above himself, regardless of the circumstances. Luckily, my father was able to donate his kidney to me, and I was given a second chance at life. I ended up moving to Los Angeles to be closer to my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife. Being only a few hours away from Phoenix, I was able to be close to BHB again. I would end up visiting him in 2018, where we had a blast goofing around and going out just like the old days. BHB would visit me in Los Angeles as well, and regardless of how long it had been since we saw each other last, we always picked back up where we left off. This year, I accepted a job with a new company that's office is in Phoenix, and I was able to see BHB more often than I had in years. I knew he had gone through some rough patches over the last few years, but he would always ensure me that he was okay, and not to worry. In April, on a whim, we went to a Suns game, and later that week, we went to a Super Smash Bros. Movie, which was perfect given our intense rivalry of Mario Kart through the years. This movie also confirmed an age-old argument he had made that the risky jump across the course to Rainbow Road was in fact legal. In June, we also saw Fall Out Boy in concert together, something that had been on our bucket list since high school. And in our final visit, which feels like some kind of poetic irony, we went mini golfing. My last time with BHB was different from the others. He had a positive energy over him that had not been there the last few times I had seen him. It was because, for the first time in over 5 years, he was going home to see his dad. And this time, it would be for good. Although he seemed to think there was some kind of stigma about moving back home, he could not have been more excited about the change. He was so happy to be moving across the street in a house from his friend Ricky, and to be able to see his other friends from back home as well. I told him I thought it was the best thing he could do, and I was so excited that he was doing it. That night, in a strange way, was perfect. I felt like the BHB who I had lived with in Chicago was back with me. He had a pep to his step. He brought me some gifts that he had purchased throughout the years, but never had a chance to give me. One being a band tee, of which he was actually wearing that night. And, as you can see, just to be the same immature pals we'd always been, I threw it on, just because I knew we'd get some shout-outs, which we did. Several. We even got to spread the word of our Woe playlist one more time to one of the workers there, who promptly added it to his collection. The night had finally come to an end, and in the parking lot outside Pop Stroke in Scottsdale, Arizona, I hugged my best friend for the last time. We told each other that we loved each other, and I mentioned I would miss seeing him in Phoenix, but I was even more excited to see him each time I came back home. This, however, would not be the last time I spoke with him that night. In fact, I called him 15 minutes later into my drive back to the hotel, just because. The next day he texted me, "You make it home yet?" This would be the last message I ever received from BHB, and this, for me, will be a lifetime reminder of how much he cared. Although I may not be a celebrity friend of BHB, like Joe Rogan or even President Donald Trump, a part of him will always remain within me, and through the years and memories we shared and countless hours of playlists we have created together, he is. In closing, although we are here to celebrate the life of our close friend, BHB, he would want to make sure that today is not just for him, but for all of us. All of us here today who maybe haven't seen this group of friends together in one place for years. So let's make BHB proud. Let's eat, let's drink, let's game, and let's celebrate the life and love we all have for our amazing friend, brother, and son, Ben BHB Schneider. Thank you.